services and in law enforcement, it's not just for hate crimes. It's all law enforcement and victim services. So guess what? Domestic violence programs will also have someone who speaks the community language. And look, I've worked with a number of AAPI DV groups across the country. We spend so many resources so that we can just provide translation for the growing Indian community in Atlanta, like the work that Raksha does, or the work that API gender-based violence does. Shouldn't the government be providing this access in our community's language? And there's funding. And so why are we just, looking at poor nonprofits, who are on shoestring budgets? So many of you are doing this work. We should be able to have those institutions that provide this assistance. And so this is actually my challenge and request. Tuet and I talked about this before this couple of weeks ago, is that we want to work together to try to triangulate our work at the local level and making sure there's language access. And so in the language access component of some of the work that we do, we want to look at the jurisdictions. Who are the largest limited English proficient Asian American, Pacific Islander, Native Hawaiian communities? Where are there deficiencies? And what can we do? Now, I want to be clear. As a commissioner of the United States, I don't have enforcement power. I only have investigatory power. But when we make an ask to a local law enforcement agency or victim services group and say, what are you doing about language access? And then when NAPAWF comes in and actually says, we would recommend and advocate for language access in like this language, and a local community member, like so many of you who are on this Zoom, comes in and says, yes, we agree with you. When a national advocacy, a local community-based organization, and a federal agency are asking the same questions, we can get some really good work done. And so that's what I'm really excited about, the partnership that we have, that I have with NAPAWF, and the work that we've done in this commission, is that we can try to make sure that our community gets the services and the resources that they need in the languages that they speak. And I think that's what it's all about. So, my colleague Stephanie is here, and, she's doing this work. I'm doing this work. Please reach out to us. If you want to be a part of it, reach out to Tuet and some of the local work that they're doing so that we can really partner and get some good stuff done.
Thank you so much, Glenn. I love the triangulation approach. I want to plug really quick our Gender Justice Collaborative, which is made up of close to a dozen grassroots organizations, which include direct services, domestic violence, and sexual assault providers as well. I myself started my career representing VAWA clients. So yay, Violence Against Women Act for doing, and you, Glenn, for doing all that work too. And so restorative justice has been one of their priorities, and also including language access as a budget item in their applications for discretionary grants. You do a great job in the report of mapping all the funding avenue routes and what's being done with government funding for all of these policy solutions as well. And a lot of the work is also honed in on language access, both at the national level and at the local level. Because Title VI and Executive Order 13166 covers both federally conducted activities by our federal government and federal recipients of funding. So all entities that receive any kind of federal assistance are obligated to comply and provide language access, create language access plans. And so there's so much work to be done with law enforcement and training. So really appreciate you highlighting that work, highlighting all the grassroots work. And there's a lot of exciting work being done at the national level as federal agencies are rebooting and releasing their national language access plans, and even have federal language access coordinators at DOJ and HHS too. So on that note, I'd like to open it up to the Q&A section of the program. If you haven't done so already, please add any questions you have to the Q&A program window. I think we have a couple of questions here too. So someone wanted to hear more about your experience, Glenn, with the hate crime. I don't know if you're comfortable about that, but that was also something, and also just talking more about your work in that area before this.
So I actually can't talk about what I had encountered as an Asian person 25 months ago, because those issues are still being worked out. No, I'm not
Oh,
in prosecution, but we're dealing with that. I will say, if you want to talk about the hate crime that I encountered 25 years ago,
yes.
you know, I came out my, you know, my parents came to this country as the first generation of immigrants from the Philippines when the immigration restrictions were lifted. And in the 1970s, I was like the only Asian on my block. You know, this is 1970s. It was my friends used to say that my house smelled foodie because my Lola would fry fish. When it came out in the 1980s, and came out as gay, I was convinced I was going to catch AIDS and die. You know, I didn't get good grades. I wasn't good at sports. I hated piano lessons, and I didn't think I was going to make it. Like, I was one of those gay Asian young people that wanted to commit suicide, but I got through it. And I persevered through that time. And, in the same way that I kind of am till today, a little colorful, a little flamboyant. People saw that in the street. And as I was leaving the gay bar one night, somebody passed my friend and I and said, shoved us. And he said to us, I'm like, what's your deal? He's like, you guys are fucking bags. I said, that's right, goddamn proud. Oh, that was probably not the right answer to make. This is like in the 1990s. It was physically difficult. But I'll tell you, it wasn't the boot marks in my back or the railing that I was shoved into that hurt the most. It was that someone attacked me for being who I was. And I did nothing to them. And I wanted to fight, and I was afraid. You know what? You asked this question. No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm good. I'm gonna fucking tell you, I'm never gonna be afraid again. And I will stand up for the community that this has never happened before. So this will never happen again. In the 1990s, we talked about rape on campus, and we're just beginning to get blue light phones. My roommate in college was actually attacked and assaulted on campus. And actually, it was at Syracuse Kristen, who actually is a rape victims advocate now. Her attacker pulled her across the street onto campus, Syracuse University, because the punishment for a rapist, is lighter on the college campus than it was in the city of Syracuse. And she tells the story publicly. So many times we have faced a victimization by others through a fault of our own. Kristen is now a criminal prosecutor doing, DV work. I'm a civil rights lawyer. And the work that I do on this commission in my whole career, and that I do with NAPAWF, is about standing up for injustice. So that this shit that happened to me, why'd you ask this question? I'm so sorry for, I really probably should.
No, don't apologize, Glenn.
It should never happen to anyone else.
Right.
I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize, Glenn. We love you and so thank you for sharing your story. You touched me to my core and my bones, Glenn. And I think for all our audience, because in the end, that's the why we're all in this work, where a lot of us are invested, a lot of us are survivors. I am a survivor, and I, the hearts of survivors are what drive this work, um, and what fuel, um, and what continues the trajectory from the women who met in Beijing to start NAPAWF to today, from you as a teenage boy in the 90s, and in law school, hungry for information about yourself. My sons, they look for information to reflect themselves on the internet all the time. And so you searching for that information, that report at the commission, and today talking, on this call about another report about our community and about ourselves, our story, really does help shift the national dialogue, and it shifts the story about Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders and Native Hawaiian women and girls and all gender expansive people, um, all folk, as you say. So grateful for your generosity and sharing your story and your tears with us today. Don't be sorry. You shouldn't be sorry. The stupid guy kick, you should be.
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Look, I do not identify as trans, but I do identify as a femme. And I do recognize that there's a gender nonconformity. Look, I can play the role of, the New York lawyer, and I know how to do that. But if you want to talk about my authentic self, I'm a queen. What do you want? And the support and love and admiration that I have for NAPAWF is like that book from the 1970s. Sisterhood is powerful. Remember when NAPAWF talked about the sisterhood and, the founding sisters? And it really is. There's that book. All the women are white. Oh shit. Women of color friends. All the women are white. All the blacks are men, but some of us are brave. To have NAPAWF be there, to advocate for people at the intersection of gender and race, gender, identity, immigration, and ethnicity. Asian women are unique and singular in the world. They got it going on, right? And why do you think they're leading all the organizations? Why do you think the big sister and the auntie and the mom keeps the organizations and our families together? And when NAPAWF was established, they created the political and the organizational infrastructure to move the role that women and the sisters and the aunties, the oldest sister in the family had, to not just doing it for our family, but for our community. It is time. And I'm so proud. I was going to say this at the end to it, but I'm sorry, it's coming up now.
No, it's
really
fine.
Proud of the work that y'all are doing. Thank you.
I am so touched. I am just a vehicle. I also want to name drop my our fearless executive director, Sung Young. She couldn't be here today, and she is one of those
Yep.
Amazing, incredible leaders that are holding so many of us up and carrying this work too. So I wanted to bring her up, and the sisterhood for all of us has been a huge support. I was a NAPAWF member 16 years ago when I first arrived to DC to work for former Commissioner Nara Karen Narasaki. So yes, and so NAPAWF has been in all of our histories for a long time. And I think the Q&A has been just a great kind of outpouring of support for you, Glenn, in your story, by the way. So I know you're not checking so much the chat. And then there's a couple questions too. Yeah, and thanking you for being vulnerable as well. There is a question. about someone who was sexually molested by a Black physician who worked at the university clinic, and then asking about kind of the research into college campus experiences for AAPI women. We are not specifically actually researching on campuses, but we do have a forthcoming study coming out of Georgia where about 400 to 500 AA and HPI women were surveyed about their experiences specifically with sexual reproductive health providers. And a lot of these providers are not just your traditional OB-GYN providers, physician's assistants, physicians, family practice as well. And it explores their different experiences in terms of discrimination, whether they're aware of different treatment options and abortion as well. And so some of the highlights do include the need for these providers to be trained and educated on race, gender, discrimination, all of it. And so I'm really sorry for the anonymous person who asked the question. Thank you for sharing your story too. I feel like this dialogue is bringing it all out, Glenn. But that's the pain. The pain of the work is what
Yeah.
brings us to the work. And what brings us to doing the research and the studies and the policy work. So to that person, we are thinking about your individual experiences with providers and how that can feed into our advocacy and our work. And so we are excited to share that study next year and unveil it, hopefully in Georgia and nationally as well.
And let me just say, like, I also teach a class on Asian American studies, just as an adjunct, right? And it's a great way to engage with young people. One of the things I say in that class is that we will interrogate race, we will examine race historically, conceptually, politically, but we are living race. We are living gender every day. And I responded to the person who apologized and said, oh, maybe I didn't send it. It's cool. Look, this is my story and these are our experiences. You cannot take that away from me. That is what they are. This is the work that the committee does. We just issued a report on anti-Asian violence. You think it's going to be pretty? But it's honest. And the work that we need to do is transition from punishment and violence to restorative justice and to work towards freedom, equality, and gender justice. And I want to be really clear, and I'm very clear. The Commission on Civil Rights and my role is to investigate the enforcement of the very specific categories that Congress has laid out deserving of protection: race, religion, gender identity, sexual orientation, sex, within the confines of how Congress has said that people deserve protection. Housing, public accommodation, employment, lending credit. That is not justice. That's not necessarily even equality. That's only the freedom from discrimination. And so I'm very clear that the work that we do as a federal agency, it's good. Don't get me wrong. I'm very happy to also do that work. And it is a transformative work that NAPAWF and the communities across this country are doing to bring about gender justice, right? I can only work on, challenges to sexism and misogyny, but it's not going to be eliminated. The work that y'all are doing locally in your communities, that is the impactful work. And that is where we need to go. That's why I think this partnership with NAPAWF and the federal government is really exciting and really rewarding.
Thank you so much, Glenn. And you're right. I want to touch on your first sentence and then give you the floor for closing remarks, since I think you really just kind of closed it down with your amazing story and everything too. So I think the restorative justice way is the way to go. How can we heal people who hurt people, because hurt people, and coming from the survivor movement, and the domestic violence movement. That's really the questions we're grappling with. And I think a lot of movements are grappling with this, the immigration movement grappling with the carceral solutions, detention, deportation, the racial equity movement, grappling with the criminal justice movement, health, health and honestly in the reproductive justice movement where women are criminalized for taking charge of our own bodies, which is going to be our one of our most pressing and largest priorities in the coming year, is stopping this punishment of women who want bodily autonomy. So, on that note, just really grateful for your leadership and your stories and just our session that we have. I want to give you the platform to give just like last thoughts and remarks and reflections, and then we're going to close it out. Since our audience, I think, is a little, it's just, I think we're just touched to our bones and we feel complete with your story. So,
I actually put into the chat, with the team on the backside. Am I talking about NAPAWF too much? But I'll tell you, this is an amazing organization. The impact that NAPAWF has made over there, and I've watched this organization grow from like 5 staff to the crazy number that y'all have. Sun Yun's leadership and the work that she has done. Woo, she fierce. I adore her. And this work is tough. I get it. We do not agree all the time. There's things that we need to do. But what I like about how NAPAWF has done this work, and I used to run another organization, an LGBT Asian American group, is that it's not just about calling out, but about calling into community. Right? Many of us who are on the male or transmasculine side of the gender spectrum, we learn sexism and misogyny, and it is a constant struggle to overcome it and to take responsibility and to be better. I don't think I would get to this point if there weren't like some radical feminists out there who, instead of canceling me, felt that they should converse with me in community. And I learned a lot. Learned stuff really the hard way from some of them, but they got better. And it is the investment that they made in me and the investment that you make in this organization that will really bring about a greater level of love and trust and movement for all of us. I am so profoundly grateful to NAPAWF. I am so incredibly excited to see the tremendous work that this organization has done. And for those of you who are out there, thank you for supporting NAPAWF, for donating to NAPAWF. I'm a member too. I made my donation, but I'm not a woman, so I guess it's like I'm an associate member. It's fine.
Don't have. Yeah.
Thank you. It's fine, but thank you for supporting this organization. My last message is, what that is, right? Did I do it right? Yeah, I did. Thank you for being here and for your support. Get involved with NAPAWF. Stay involved. Y'all are great.
Thank you, Glenn. On that note, thank you all for joining us. To stay up to date on all of this and future events, join our mailing list by visiting napawf.org. You can follow us on all of our social media channels. Happy holidays. Take care. Stay well. Thank you so much, Glenn, and have a great afternoon.